It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Conversations with Joan. Conversations with Joan will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Conversations with Joan. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. Conversations with Joan focuses on topics that are important to your life, from health and wellness to professional development to personal well-being. Changemakers join me to share their insights, tips, and strategies so you can thrive and live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. Now, let's start talking. Today's guest, Marci Zaroff, teaches how to live and shop in harmony with nature without foregoing style or luxury. She provides resources to transform your life through the choices you make. Marci is an internationally recognized eco-lifestyle entrepreneur and educator. She is the co-founder of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, Good Catch, and BeyondBrands, and she's the author of the new book, Eco-Renaissance, a lifestyle guide for creating a stylish, sexy, and sustainable world. Welcome, Marci. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, John. It's great to be with you today.
So, Marci, you've been an entrepreneur for years, much of the time in the sustainable fashion and or conscious business space. For those who may not be familiar with the term, what does eco-lifestyle mean?
Yeah, so an eco-lifestyle is one that kind of represents a holistic system where there's an understanding of our relationship with the environment and the full ecosystem around us, right? So in the book, I speak a lot about the connection between food and beauty and fashion and business and art and wellness, because they are all interconnected on many different levels. Mm-hmm. And so today, when people are embracing more conscious decisions in the choices that they're making, you know, there's an understanding that you can't really support one piece without the other because of this interconnection. So, for instance, people who are eating organic food today may not realize it, but organic fashion and organic beauty products are very much built on that same mindset that we want to avoid things that are toxic to our bodies or that harm ourselves or the environment.
And I think this is something, as you said, many of us don't even think about, and it almost seems like it's difficult to escape these dangers. What are some of the biggest risks that consumers face today?
Well, you know, when we look at our food system as a starting point, which is often where people do have that seed planted, mm-hmm. You know, we've gotten so far removed from food being healing and nourishing and nurturing and, you know, giving us the strength and the vitality that it's meant to provide us with. I mean, Hippocrates once said, let food be thy medicine, right? You know, food is an extension of ourselves. It's the energy we're putting in our bodies that becomes who we are. That's why people say you are what you eat. However, in today's world, if you really look at, you know, the food system, it's become such a system based on, you know, on an industrialized methodology and mindset that there's a detachment from what that energy actually is. And if you pull the curtain back and you start reading the labels on many of the foods that are out there today, you wouldn't be able to pronounce a lot of the ingredients. You know, there's so many chemicals. And then you look at agriculture, and which is another whole piece of this equation. And, you know, we've destroyed much of the soil on our planet, which is the skin of the earth, because we've, you know, been using conventional methods of agriculture. And that includes things like glyphosate and pesticides and fertilizers that are harmful. And, you know, we've broken down those ecosystems in our soil, and we depend on those. So, you know, in an organic methodology or mindset, it's, you know, healthy soil creates healthy plants, which creates healthy people. And so it goes back to, you know, pulling the curtain back and starting to unveil, you know, what are the human and environmental impacts of the choices that we're making every day, you know, food and beyond.
This is for everything. I mean, recently I had to purchase a mattress, and to do the research to get a mattress that would be a healthier option for me and my family, it's daunting, to be honest. So Where can someone begin? You mentioned food, but if we're looking at all aspects of our life, let's simplify this a little bit for our listeners. Where should we begin, and what can we do to make healthier choices?
Yeah, so, the book really maps out a lot of resources, from brands to look for to websites to go to. Obviously, the internet has changed the game for this whole movement. I've been living this lifestyle for nearly 3 decades, and, we used to be kind of the hippie, crunchy, frumpy, perceived to be that way. I was always very stylish and always loved high quality and great product, but there were stigmas that were always attached to this movement, the alternative, right? But, it's a new day today. And, for food, as an example, this isn't about Whole Foods markets anymore. This is, you can buy organic and healthier food choices on Amazon, where you can read reviews and you can read about the products, or you can go to Thrive Market online. There are so many opportunities today, to shop in mainstream stores. Like Costco is the biggest buyer of organic food today, and CVS and Duane Reade and Walgreens are lining their shelves with eco-friendly beauty products. This is no longer about staying ahead. It's about not being left behind. This movement is, somewhat contagious, because I think once people have that seed planted and they realize that, we don't have to make choices that ultimately are compromising, human and environmental health or future generations, we can have it all. So I think that where the breakthroughs have happened and where people can find information is really everything from mainstream stores to being online, and going down into specifics. In my book, Eco Renaissance, I lay out in every chapter lots and lots of tips and resources.
Are there designations that people should look for when making selections?
So I'm a big believer in third-party certification, because it's not a perfect system, but it certainly, has a higher likelihood of being reassured as a consumer that, the products you're buying are in fact what they say they are, right? So in the case of food, the USDA organic seal, as an example, where most people do recognize that seal, that is a federally governed, a federally regulated program, and there are ramifications and fines that, a company who would be misusing that seal would be subjected to. So it kind of puts in a system in place when you have something like that. Our equivalent in the fashion space would be the GOTS seal, the Global Organic Textile Standard. So when you bought that mattress,
yes,
I hope it was GOTS certified.
It was.
Perfect. And that would mean it's free of all the harmful chemicals, and it's not just about the cotton itself in the mattress or in the clothing or the bedding products. It's about, what's going into the finishes, the dyes, the processing of that product. And people don't even realize, I talked a little bit about we are what we eat, but we're also, what we wear or what we sleep on or what we put on our bodies, not just what we put in our bodies. A conventional cotton textile, whether it's your bed sheet or your towel, or it's your jeans and T-shirt, or it's your mattress, can be absolutely ridden with harmful chemicals that your skin is up against sometimes for 24 hours a day. We wear a lot of cotton. We use a lot of cotton products. Mm-hmm. But when you pull the curtain back and you look at, the pesticides and insecticides, cotton being one of the most heavily sprayed industries in agriculture, and then you also look at the chlorine bleach and sometimes even heavy metals, dyes that are toxic, formaldehyde, and other ingredients that are going into these products, and then we wonder why, a third of the population has asthma and allergies and skin conditions, and it's just a matter of stopping and reflecting on that and logically saying, are the choices that we're making actually helping us or harming us?
Marci, for the average person who goes into their local shopping mall and they go into some of the, the more well-known brand department stores, what types of garments would they be finding on the rack? Would there be any healthier options?
So I think that I think there's a couple layers to that, right? There's a couple of buckets within the world of sustainable fashion that are very important today. So one of them, as I already have mentioned, is, looking for organic cotton over conventional cotton, and high-end like Stella McCartney to mass market like H&M to brands like Outerknown and Mara Hoffman and Patagonia and Prana. There are a lot of companies out there, and I think that, again, going back to having the internet, we can really learn about the brands that we're supporting, and I think that that's a very helpful thing to do. I think you're not going to find, sustainable fashion as ubiquitous, as conventional today, but I think that the train is leaving the station, and you're going to see more and more as each year goes by. I think it's a matter of having that awareness. You don't know, I think the key to this movement going to the next level is definitely increased accessibility. My brand that I founded in 1996 called Under the Canopy is a brand that sells at Bed Bath & Beyond. As I mentioned earlier, conscious food is now available everywhere on menus. But going back to, the textile question, so that is one bucket, is organic. There's another thing to look for, and that would be zero waste or recycled or circular. And I think that is another issue that we have in the fashion industry. The amount of waste that's generated, more than 5% of landfill space, 10% of the world's carbon footprint is coming out of the fashion industry. The amount of energy that's being used and to produce, fast fashion. 20% of the world's freshwater pollution is coming from textile treatment and dyeing. So when we look at, buying things that are recycled, we're not, buying virgin, which are, again, kind of really using a tremendous amount of our Earth's resources in the process. So there's also fair trade, and that's not only another thing to look for, but it's another label that you can find, Fair Trade USA, which people are used to seeing on coffee or, ice cream. But today you can buy fair trade certified textiles, and that is also a growing movement. And if you check out Fair Trade USA, you could probably get a list of all those brands. So I think as people are entering this world, I think it's a matter of, education and recognizing that you need to know what you're looking for. And I think, but there's a greater proliferation now that's happening in sustainable fashion based on the younger generations, the younger designers. Eileen Fisher is just exploding as a brand right now, and I think it's very telling. Those companies that are doing the right thing, and Patagonia and Eileen Fisher being, leaders, I think you're seeing them. You're seeing growth rates that are much stronger than their conventional counterparts.
And Marci, your work is so important, and this is such an important conversation to have, because as you were speaking, I was thinking about all the people that are dealing with chronic disease in their body. You mentioned asthma and inflammatory issues and all of these things that people are suffering from. And I would bet anything that they do not think about things like their clothing, the furniture in their home, the items that they're surrounded by as a potential cause of whatever they're going through.
Absolutely, and that is where education comes in, and that's one of the reasons I've written the book. It's, to me, there's an element of the book that is just logic. When the book is called Eco-Renaissance, which is rebirth, and that awakening that we're part of the ecosystem, and that also we are connected to nature. We're not outside of nature; we're a part of it. We have a symbiotic relationship. We breathe out oxygen. We breathe out carbon dioxide, and the plants breathe it in. The plants breathe out oxygen. We breathe it in. And what we've done is we've infused our lifestyle with so many harsh chemicals and toxic ingredients, with this naivety that the government is protecting us, right? But if you really start to, research what's in the food, the clothing, the beauty products, the cosmetics, the flooring, the paint, the things that are surrounding us every day that we're breathing in, that we're, putting on our skin, the largest organ in our body and primary organ for absorption, that logic, that light would start to go off that, and I pose a lot of questions in my book around this. Like, would you, if there was a a small dish and it was mixed with different chemicals, would you stick your finger in it and rub that on your skin, And maybe that's an extreme version, but, in a sense, when you look at what we're doing and, to in our surroundings and the faster, cheaper, more mentality has only, propelled that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the quality of things is going down and deteriorating, in the name of better prices. And people are we've got to reverse that, because business as usual is not sustainable on any level anymore.
Yeah, and like I said, these are things that we just don't think about. Now, Marci, when you go out and you speak at conferences and gatherings around the world, what do you find that the business world is most interested in? Do you think they're catching on now?
I do. I think that, this is no longer a choice but an imperative, and the good leaders, the good business leaders of today, they know that to stay relevant, they have to be thinking about sustainability and, the 5 Ps, which is people, planet, profit, passion, and purpose, in order to stay relevant. So what's changed that is transparency and the internet. And, today, unlike when I was growing up, you can actually ask the question, what's in my food, where did it come from, how was it grown, where was it made, and you can ask the same thing about your clothing, who's making it, where is it made, where, what am I wearing? And we couldn't ask those questions before. And, there's actually a big movement called Fashion Revolution. Who made my clothes is the hashtag. And, I think that because of that, retailers and brands recognize that, we have the ability to tell stories with social media and digital marketing. And today, it's, what used to be a competitive advantage to tell stories is a necessity, because if you're not telling a transparent and authentic story that's connected to your product, someone's going to tell that story for you. And so you better be thinking about, how you're building your business models, because, the social media can be your best friend, but it can also be your worst enemy if you're not doing the right thing. And I think that that's forcing companies who aren't mission-driven or values-driven, it's forcing them to wake up. People within their companies are trying to champion change. There are green teams and sustainability directors or executives in pretty much every major corporation. And I think good business today, isn't just focusing on the bottom line. And when you look at, the growth of the B Corp movement, that's a testament to this. There are just more and more companies that are surfacing every day that are embracing, the social accountability, the environmental responsibility, as business imperatives.
Marci, as people are listening to you now, I know that when they hear words like organic or they hear the types of products that you're talking about, they automatically believe that it must be much more costly, and they say, I don't have the time to research this, I don't have the money to buy those things. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, so I think there are 3 myths that have come with this movement. And myth number 1 is that you have to give something up. And in the case of food, it's going to be tasteless. It's going to be boring. It's going to, granola and brown rice mentality. If it's fashion, it's crunchy, frumpy, boxy, beige, boring, style. It's potato sack, right? If it's beauty products, it's not going to work. It's not going to, be functional. It's the smell's going to wear off. I mean, there's just kind of these stigmas. And the book, Eco Renaissance that I wrote is really, the premise is through the lens of design and redesign, we can change the world. So we have to drive with food that tastes great and fashion that looks great and beauty products that are functional and smell great and business that makes money. I mean, you have to drive with those basic tenets. And then it's, oh, by the way, it's also organic, sustainable, ethically made, fair trade, plant-based, on and on and on. And similar to the second myth. The second myth is, well, it's going to cost so much more. It's for the elite. I can't afford it. But really what that has come down to is driving innovation in this world, again, through redesign and recognizing that being smart in business is understanding how to build efficient supply chains. And supply and demand are a big part of the economic model in building a business, right? So in the early years before there was a lot of demand, there were more challenges in building supply chains. But today, because more and more people, are joining this eco-renaissance movement, we, in all of these sectors, are able to be more collaborative, more innovative, more vertically integrated, more efficient, and then we can add value to the products and pass that value on to the consumer with no compromise.
The book is Eco-Renaissance, a lifestyle guide for co-creating a stylish, sexy, and sustainable world. If you'd like to get more information about Marci and her work, you can visit marcizaroff.com. Marci, in about 30 seconds or less, what's the takeaway?
The takeaway really is that we all are part of, what we experience every day. And I think at the core of who we all are, we want happiness, we want love, we want peace. We can create that. We can co-create that. We can have fun while we're doing it so that we can choose smart and we can protect, human and environmental health and future generations.
Marci, thank you so much for being here with us. As I said, this is such an important conversation because we really need to educate ourselves about what we surround ourselves with, what we put on our body, and what we put in our body. So your work is really changing lives, and I'm so happy that you were here to share this with us.
Thank you so much. And again, we're all a part of, we all live under the canopy of this planet's ecosystem together. We're all in this together. So let's create a positive, healthy, greener, cleaner future for all.
Amen. This is
Thank
Conversations
you.
with Joan. Stay with us. We'll be right back.